Hello, my name is Anna, and I have always thought it'd be so much fun to do a Q&A because, I don't know, I like talking. And so, like everyone always says, I asked on Instagram to see if there was any questions anyone had, and people came through. I have some talking topics to talk about, and this is just gonna be a little chatty life update answering your questions. I have them all on my phone here. I kind of ordered them by topic. And the first topic was college, which, if you don't know, I just graduated about 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago to the day, from the University of Alabama. And somebody asked, what was your favorite memory from college? And honestly, this might be a cop-out answer. My favorite memory from college was when I studied abroad. So like when I wasn't actually at college, but I studied abroad in Spain for 2 months the summer between my freshman and sophomore years in 2019. And not only was it my peak of my college experience, but also I genuinely believe it was the peak of my just like life experience so far. I would love to talk more about that. I love my study abroad experience. It does not take that long in conversations before I bring it up constantly every day. But studying abroad is something I definitely suggest doing if you have the means to, the opportunity to, and it was definitely my favorite memory from college. Someone asked, do you have to rush? I don't think rushing is for me, but I'm worried about making friends. And I think this is kind of unique because at the University of Alabama, rushing and Greek life is very, very big. I believe it is 1/3 of people rush and so are involved in Greek life, and I did not. I kind of considered it, but they're so expensive that I just couldn't quite justify it to myself. It's very different by school, but like at the University of Alabama, it could be $4,000, $5,000 a semester just to be a part of the sorority. And so for me, instead, I used that money to study abroad, like I mentioned before, or just do other things in life. You definitely do not have to rush. It has a very big presence on campus, and I feel like people not on campus, like looking into the University of Alabama, all you ever hear about really is like Greek life, sororities, that kind of culture. But like I said, 1/3 of people are involved in Greek life, which means then 2/3 of people are not. And so there's a bunch of people who are not. It's so possible to make friends freshman year and to make friends in general without rushing, but definitely freshman year in the beginning, I think it'll feel like the people who did rush will make friends faster, or at least will appear to make friends faster because they might have like just a group of people they know sooner. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to make friends, because there's so many other ways to meet people. And rushing is not the end all be all. It's just very individual based. And if you don't think you will enjoy it, then honestly you probably won't. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. Next, why did you live in a dorm as a senior? It is most common to just live in the dorms your freshman year, and then some people will live in like kind of the on-campus apartments sophomore year sometimes. Not all the time though. Usually people will move off campus after their freshman year. However, I was on a housing scholarship, and so if I lived on campus it was free, and so I stayed on campus all 3 years. I lived in Ridgecrest West my freshman year. I lived in Bryce Lawn my sophomore year until it got cut down with COVID, and then I graduated in 3 years, so I didn't really have a junior year. So my senior year I lived in Pres too. Now this one I'm going to redact the name of the place, but one of my coworkers asked, old coworkers asked, what was your favorite and least favorite part about working at one of my past jobs? My favorite part was becoming friends with my coworkers, because despite working there for nearly 2 years, it was probably like the last 6 months is when I became closest with coworkers, and coworkers really make or break a job. And in my case, they very much made it. My least favorite part was definitely the pay. I got paid $8 an hour for about a year and a half, and then got raised to $9 an hour, which is not a livable wage. I really hope, this is a side note, I really hope with the labor shortages and just like that news, those tweets that are happening with like restaurants not having enough people and something, I hope that sparks change to raise the minimum wage, because starvation wages ain't it. Moving from college kind of into more social work, what are your future goals for social work? And to be honest, I have many answers to this question, because I kind of like how with social work you don't have to just stick in one career path. There's so many things you can do with a social work degree, which I've made videos talking about on this channel. And so I kind of like that I could, if I wanted to, do like one job for 5 years and then have like a total career change, but still with the same degree and same job title in a totally different setting. And so I definitely want to work with children just because they fill me up inside. I really enjoy working with children. I have talked about it a couple times, but I really loved school social work whenever I did that for my BSW field placement, and I could definitely see myself doing that in the future. And so I would love to work in an elementary school. I am also very interested in working with immigrants and refugees, especially immigrant and refugee children. I think it would be very interesting to work in an inpatient facility. I honestly, and this is like, I want to kind of work in the social work jobs, at least while I'm young and able in the more like crisis-based social work job. For example, when I took a class about the fight against human trafficking, they were talking about how like there would be police raids in the middle of the night and like busts to like save children, rescues, things like that. And I would love to be a part of that, to be able to be an advocate for a child like in that situation. And so I think it would be so cool to be a social worker at a police department, or be like a social worker who works with EMTs, riding around in ambulances. That's kind of a growing field. It's not super well developed yet, but I think that would be so cool. I'm gonna ask, what is your favorite workout? And right now, I've mentioned it in a couple vlogs, but I've really been loving doing AMRAP style workouts, which is as many rounds as possible. You can kind of do this in many different forms. What I usually do is I pick 2 exercises that kind of complement each other, and I'll do 10 of each and just go back and forth between them, no break. I've usually been doing about 4 minutes at a time, and so you'll set your timer for 4 minutes, and then you do as many rounds as possible of those exercises. And then after that, you take a nice long break, because those 4 minutes can be really tough. So you take a nice long break and then do that again. So for example, I might do like 10 chest press, 10 bicep curls, and just keep doing that for the full 4 minutes and get as many rounds as possible in as I can. I just find that to be a good way that I can like challenge myself while being alone, because I sometimes struggle with like genuinely challenging myself while working out, not with others. Sometimes it's just hard to keep myself accountable, but I found that that setup allows me to not get bored. I'm thinking, okay, like these 4 minutes, I'm gonna push as hard as I can, and they really wear me out quite well. Moving more into like current day questions. Someone asked, where are you living now and what is your job? And so I'm living in Atlanta. I moved here right after graduation, the day after graduation. And right now I actually moved into where Zach has lived for the past year, because his lease here goes until the middle of June, where we'll be moving into a new location with Zach and one of his current roommates, Jason. And it'll be the 3 of us. And then what is your job? I'll work as a preschool teacher for the summer. And then in grad school, I have decided to not work unless I stick around with the school and just like sub occasionally. But I'm going to try to focus in the fall on my studies and on not just like booking all of my hours with working as I did for most of undergrad. I'm gonna try to enjoy this year a little bit more, enjoy my last year before entering the professional field. Someone asked, how is living in Atlanta so far and do you love it? I do love it, and I expect to continue loving it. Right now, it kind of feels still like transition period, because like I said, I'm not living right now where I'll be permanently, and also I'm not really doing much because like work hasn't started yet. So it feels very much just like a transition period. And also I feel like I'm still in like semester recovery, because last semester was pretty tough, mostly like with work and with the 4 to 8 a.m. shifts, and just the last year as a whole with COVID was just a tough year to get through. It took a lot of endurance, and so I feel like I'm just still resting, recovering, purposefully not filling my days. This month right now isn't necessarily what life is going to look like in Atlanta for me for the next year, but we're getting little tidbits of fun and everything in there. Someone asked, is Zach in school? Yes, we're the same age, but I graduated in 3 years. So he's about to start his senior year. He is a biology major doing pre-med, and yeah, has 1 year left, but he'll graduate next May. He actually graduates 1 week before I do with my master's, which is kind of funny because I was partly hoping that I would graduate with 2 degrees before he had 1, just for the competitive nature of it, but he'll beat me. And then I actually got, it was like 4 questions asking about just essentially like, how did you keep a healthy long distance relationship for so long? How did you deal with a long distance relationship? How have you kept a healthy relationship for so long? And so that's something that I kind of wanted to touch on at the end here, since I was kind of surprised there was like 4 questions about it. But if you didn't know, Zach and I started dating when we were 16. And so from like 16 to 18, we were just regular, lived in the same town, regular relationship. And then we went separate places for college. They're 3 hours away from each other. So it wasn't that far away from each other, but also it was long distance because we weren't there. I think what was kind of helpful was that going long distance, it was a change for sure, but it wasn't like the huge, most drastic 180 change whenever we did it moving into college, because we were both so busy in high school and we went to different high schools, we had different groups of friends, and so it wasn't like our lives were like Venn diagram, you know, overlapping circle, and then all of a sudden we lived apart. It was like we already had our separate lives and kind of knew and practiced how to like still come together and be in a relationship in that time. And so then it's like whenever we moved apart, we were used to having our own lives, and so like I got to create my own life in Alabama, he got to create his own life here. And it was fun because I would visit him mostly, because with swim he couldn't leave quite as much, and so I would visit him, get to meet his friends, and like he came and saw Alabama a couple of times, which was nice. I think some key tips is definitely neither of us, I'm jokingly dramatic, but like as a person and like in a relationship I'm truly not dramatic, and so like tip tip number one, I think, is that neither of us are like drama-filled people at all, and so we're both really good at keeping small deals. And so like if Zach didn't text me for like 6 hours or something, I don't know, there maybe would sometimes be a part of me that's like, why isn't he texting me? And then I have to combat that with like, because he's probably having fun somewhere now, you know what I mean? Like we both trusted each other through the whole time, and so it was never like me being worried about what he was doing or him being worried about what I was doing. We trusted each other, kept small deals. We honestly talked on the phone quite a bit, and I think more this past year than the years before. We probably talked on the phone about once a day, and not in like a stressful, like obligatory way, like it wasn't like a big deal if we missed a day, but it'd be like if I was making dinner or something, I would just like shoot him a quick call. We would talk for maybe like 10-15 minutes, and then like just to check in with each other. So it definitely stank and was hard because like obviously I missed him and like I would want to see him and everything, but I think it also was helpful. We always had a next time in mind, so there never really was any time that it was like, oh, like I don't know when I'm gonna see him again. It was always like, okay, like we're both gonna be home for Thanksgiving, I'll see him then, or like, okay, like I'm gonna visit in February, I'll see him then. And then because we were long distance for college, it was always just like a, okay, we're going to be long distance in college. There was always the defined like, okay, as soon as we can after college, we will no longer be long distance. And so I think that was also helpful, like knowing when it would stop. I don't know if that was a super well organized answer. So I guess recap, keep small deals, have planned when you're gonna see each other next, when you're gonna not be long distance anymore, because I feel like that can keep you hopeful. Like obviously like communicate, just check in with each other. I think this was kind of important. It wouldn't be that regular, but like every now and then Zach and I would have a conversation of like, is there anything that I can be doing better? Is there anything that you would like me to do differently, etc. Obviously like messages can get lost in translation when you text sometimes, and so sometimes I'd have to say like, you know, whenever you just say yes to what I say and don't contribute more to the conversation, like that makes me not feel super heard, because to me it's like, oh, he's not keeping the conversation going, but to him it was like, oh, like I agree, I'm just gonna say yes. And so there's like different things like that where you have to believe the best in each other. Or if he like wouldn't text for a while or wouldn't answer a while and I didn't know why, again, believing the best in someone. It's like, oh, like he's probably just got lost in his studying right now, like, you know, he will text me back eventually and it'll be just fine. There was never any like, oh, what's he doing right now, like is he hiding something? No, none of that. I'm happy to do like a better video on that topic, like long distance relationship at some point when maybe my thoughts are like more organized about it. But I hope at least that little tidbit was helpful. That's all the questions I have for the Q&A though. So if you have any more, feel free to DM me on Instagram, comment them. Happy to do this again sometime. I hope this was enjoyable for you too, and I'll see you next time.